from a meeting that I had with him in late August, early September. And on top of that, you have David Weiss essentially, so they all agreed to charging the felony a misdemeanor. So DOJ policy on this is that their tax policy is that if you have a felony with a misdemeanor, you have to charge the felony. And that's to prevent inequitable treatment of taxpayers.
And they didn't do that, is what you're saying.
And according to the charging document, they only charged 2 misdemeanors, and one of those tax years related to 2018.
So let me just give you an opportunity to respond to some of the things that Democrats on Capitol Hill are saying. First of all, they're saying, why would a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, David Weiss, lie?
So I have no idea what his motives or what his beliefs are. All I can do is present the facts to Congress, and it's for them to determine, and the American people and the administration to make the proper decision on how to move forward.
So let me ask you another question. So you're a 13-year veteran of the IRS, is that correct?
I am.
Okay. Is this the most high-profile, most potentially politically sensitive case you've ever worked on?
Yeah, I would say so.
And when you say that you saw abnormalities in this case, like what other cases are you comparing it to? Just the normal Joe taxpayer case?
So I'm actually working an even bigger case than this. Not as sensitive as this, but an even bigger case than this. And I can tell you the assigned prosecutors in that case have not acted anywhere near what we were going through, being constantly hamstrung, not following normal process. The storage unit location that we wanted to do the search warrant on. I think that it's important for people to understand that we had a plan to move forward. Even David Weiss agreed with that plan, but then they were at the same time telling defense counsel that we know about this storage unit and that you need to turn over the records. So we were relying on him and his counsel to turn over those records to the government versus us going and getting those records.
So you testified yesterday you wanted to interview President Biden's grandchildren, Hunter's grown children, right? They're adults. But you were told no, you couldn't. Even without those interviews, you still had enough evidence, in your view, to recommend charges because he was deducting things related to them that he wouldn't be allowed to deduct in his taxes, right? I mean, so you already knew the crime had happened. The argument would be you don't need to talk to Hunter's adult children. You already have the evidence that what he did was wrong. So tell me why that's not a satisfactory answer.
So when we work our tax cases, and it's an expense that is deducted as a business expense on someone's tax return, you have to essentially, they're presumed that that's a business expense until you prove that it's not. So part of it is going to the third party to get those records. That's one step. And then interviewing that person to determine why was that expense made. And then a lot of times those witnesses could lead you to other things. They could lead you to other evidence, expenditures that might have been made related to them.
So obviously it's a politically sensitive case, and I don't disagree with you that theoretically everybody should be treated equally before the law in investigations like this. One question I have is, because we hear Democrats saying this, that you and Shapley have not produced any evidence of criminality by President Biden. Is that, when they say that, is that correct?
So what I can tell you and what we stated yesterday, we are working with the House Ways and Means. We are...
To get President Biden's taxes?
No, we are working with the House Ways and Means to any records that Congress has asked for related to this investigation. We are working through the process. They can vote on whether or not to release those to the full Congress. And that's the process that is a part of being a whistleblower.
So this was cited, and you were called before the committee because they're talking about, the House Republicans are saying that the federal government has been weaponized against conservatives and Republicans. They give any number of examples of there being very aggressive treatment of Republicans and, in their view, in their characterization, kid glove treatment for Democrats. You are a self-described Democrat. You worked at the IRS for 13 years. Is that an accurate description based on what you've witnessed in those 13 years?
So I'm not going to speak to the weaponization of the government because I don't think that's appropriate for me. I'm just going to present the facts as I know them. I think one of the big things that I mentioned yesterday was we need to have an independent attorney with authority to come in here and see and make sure that things were done correctly to the law. And I think it's important that there may be ancillary offshoot cases from this that are sensitive, that need to be investigated appropriately, that may not have venue in Delaware, so we don't run into that same exact problem. And that's all I'm trying to say, is that we need to have someone in there to look at that.
Do you know of criminal charges against Hunter Biden that were not filed, that definitively there is evidence, proof that they should be filed, that he should be facing justice for?
So again, meeting with the assigned attorneys, and that included Department of Justice tax attorneys, all agreed for felony and misdemeanor tax charges related to 2017, 2018, and 2019. I didn't see that in the charging document that was filed in Delaware.
And those charges would have been for what, undeclared income?
So it would have been a false return tax charge, so it's 72061, and a tax evasion, so 7201. So evading your income taxes.
So you tell me, because you're the expert, not me, is it not possible that in the dealings with the Hunter Biden attorneys, they just agreed, okay, we'll drop this in exchange for a plea of guilty? Because that does happen.
So I can tell you there's a lot of cases around the U.S. right now where people are being charged with both the felony and misdemeanor and not having the felony dropped off. So I think it's important that it's in the tax manual, their policy that states that if you have the felony and you have the evidence there, and there's also a misdemeanor, you have to charge the felony in order to not have an equitable treatment of taxpayers.
And so in your mind, should Hunter Biden be sentenced to jail, sentenced to prison? Is that what you think justice would look like based on the crimes committed?
So again, I'm not here about Hunter Biden. I'm here about the bigger picture of all of this. I blew the whistle because I saw inappropriate things being done throughout this investigation. I brought facts. I brought things that had happened as I recalled them to Congress. My supervisor, Gary Shapley, did the same thing. And I think it's important for the American people. Don't read our transcripts.
Yeah. Read
the transcripts, because we did that under oath. We can be, if we said something, if we lied, willfully lied in that's so important, that read what we said, and you can determine for yourselves one way or the other.
Do you think that it's possible that because this was the president's son, there were extra sensitivities and extra protocols because of that would have been extended to an investigation of a Republican president's son or daughter as well? And since this is the highest profile, biggest, most sensitive investigation you ever were part of, you weren't used to that, but that really is just generally what happens when it has to do with any powerful family, any powerful, and again, I'm not excusing it, but I'm just saying, like, I'm wondering if this is just how, like, the DuPonts would be treated, or, because you're from Delaware.
No, I'm from Georgia.
Oh, okay. But you're working in Delaware. You know what I'm saying? Like, that any powerful family might be treated with kid gloves like this. Again, I'm not saying that's right, but that maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I think it's important that I understood that it was a politically sensitive case. I'm completely aware. He was an attorney. Records had to go through a filter review. So I'm completely aware of all those problems. And that's why I think it's important that we have an independent attorney who has authority, so a special counsel, independent attorney, that can get in there and make sure that things are done correctly and that the proper charges are brought. That would restore faith in our justice system.
Well, I know it's not an easy thing to be a whistleblower. I know it's not an easy thing to walk into the public and say things like this, and you're going to be attacked. You were attacked before by Trump people who thought that you were part of a conspiracy, and likely you're going to be attacked by the other side now. Joseph Ziegler, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Coming up next, a Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee who questioned Ziegler today questioned Ziegler yesterday, responds to Ziegler's comments just now. Then, what was taken from a Nevada house that was just searched in connection with Tupac Shakur's murder? We're going to talk to the host of the podcast Slow Burn, who did an entire season on the Tupac and Biggie murders. Stay with us.
Subway refreshed everything, and now